going to talk about the genocide case by South Africa against the state of Israel. This is a historical case. This is nobody actually had the guts to actually put the racist apartheid state of Israel, bring them to international law and international community and follow the law of law since the establishment of the state of Israel in 48. She's been out of the international law framework. She has free hand to do invade, steal, occupy, kill, wherever, civilian, citizens, suspects, turning Gaza to a concentration camp, West Bank, Golan Heights, South Lebanon, Sinai, Rafah, you name it. It is really an amazing. There is no country in the history that has impunity and this kind of international protection from the West and the Americans. For all these years, the Americans or the West started with England and then France and now everybody else, even the Arab Zionists, are protecting this madness, this mass killing. So this is all rhetoric. This is all for debate and social media and talk shows. Everybody's gearing for rating, and the victims is still falling every minute. More than 23,000 killed in the last 3 months. Mostly children and women. And everybody's talking about the Israelis' right to defend itself. And the Palestinians just have the right to die, to be killed. So this is the only time this issue becoming serious. And it's a legal issue now in the International Court of Justice. This is the highest legal entity in the world from the United Nations. And I think the case is solid, valid. Most of the people who understand this international law, they think South Africa has a solid case. You're talking about targeting a group of people, Palestinian, distinctive race, of mass killing them and eliminating and ethnic cleansing them. Dropping 6,000 bombs every day. So this is an amazing. So the case in court now started today, and it's kind of it's gonna show how the world works. It's gonna expose everybody. It's gonna expose this rhetoric from the Arab leader and Arab Zionists about the Palestinians. Since I grew up for the last 60, 70 years, Palestine is Palestine, and then when it comes through, they are sided with the Zionist project from the back alley and dark rooms and weird things. So, according to this case, violating Article 36(1) and 4 of the statute of the court and Article 38 of the rule of the court. This is the South African judge. I have the honor to submit this application, institute proceeding in the name of the Republic of South Africa against the state of Israel. To pursue the Article 41 of the status, the application includes a request that the court indicate provincial measure to protect the rights invoked herein from imminent and irreparable loss. So this case to protect a group of people from madness, from being cleansed, from being genocidal. So it's 84 pages and full of reciting and information, supportive information. This is not an opinion. This is not just a political analysis from Peers or Tucker or whatever on a news hour where everything has two sides, no matter what, no matter how evil and genocidal the act is. The news hour, the BBC comes with two sides. Everything has a two sides. No. Evil is evil and good is good. There is no two sides for evil act. There's only one side. Apologies, they said, it's Hamas did this and wasn't worth it, destroying Gaza for Hamas. Why do you blame Hamas? Why do you blame the victim of rape? Because the victim was wearing a short skirt. That's the same as blaming Hamas or the Palestinians for what the Israelis did in the last 3 months, destroying a country, beheading a nation, beheading a group of people, the Jewish ISIS, the Zionist, the Jewish Taliban, that they are moved into killing everything that moves, buildings, hospitals, schools, playground, cemetery. They didn't even spare the dead. Be talking, our guest today is Professor David Schultz, and he's studied international law, and he's going to shed some lights on what is really going on with this. Well, this is really. I was talking about the South African case against the state of Israel. This is serious. This is a serious business. This is a serious work. Well documented, 84 pages, well documented legally, making a case against the state of Israel that is conducting a genocidal act against a distinctive group of people, the Palestinians, in one place, one people, and documented by the massive act of violence that is committed by the Israelis in the last 3 months. So I know the International Court of Justice, highest in the United Nations, but it doesn't really have a good. Tell us a little bit about the International Court of Justice and why the case of South Africa is different and has a chance than the other ones that did not work. Maybe once the International Court of Justice will work. So give us some context.
Sure. Okay. So when the United Nations was formed back after World War II, they also created as their official court the International Court of Justice. And the whole purpose of post-World War II international law, as I make my students repeat every day, the whole purpose is what? Peaceful resolution of conflict. That's the goal. The idea is that we're not supposed to do what we did before World War II and resort to arms and weapons and killing and so forth. And so the International Court of Justice is supposed to be the primary place where states and governments take their disputes. And it could be disputes about, let's say, border issues. It could be issues about treaties. But this is the place where they're supposed to go.
This is state by state, not individuals.
Correct, right. This is adjudication state by state. And every state that is a member of the United Nations agrees implicitly to the jurisdiction of the International Court of Justice. Additionally, the International Court of Justice is empowered to resolve disputes if there are certain treaties that are also negotiated that say, we're going to let the International Court also handle this. Right? So this is the primary body. And what South Africa did was to bring a case for for preliminary jurisdiction and for preliminary ruling by the Court of Justice to argue that Israel has violated the Genocide Treaty, a treaty that South Africa and Israel have all ratified and recognized as valid treaties that they are going to follow.
It's interesting, and I had to interrupt you, but that particular treaty was because of what happened in the Holocaust to the Jews in Europe.
Exactly.
And then the children of the Holocaust are committing the same thing.
Yes, this is. I mean, what I find ironic in this whole case, I'm old enough to remember apartheid in South Africa, when South Africa regime was a horribly apartheid racist regime, and to now see South Africa have the moral high ground in bringing a claim of genocide against Israel. I mean, this is something that I would have never thought growing up that I would see. But what's happening here is that it's arguing that it is violating the Genocide Treaty, a treaty of which Israel agreed to support and of which it issued no reservations. And what we mean by that, Israel didn't say, well, we support the treaty, but we don't support all of it. So it endorsed the whole thing. Additionally, there's this principle in international law called jus cogens, principles of law that every country must follow no matter what. And this is also a product of World War II, where in Nuremberg, in the famous Nuremberg trials, which put the Nazis on trial, what the Allies said and what the courts argued is that there are certain acts, crimes against humanity, that are just inherently wrong. And what's happening here is that South Africa is saying, both based on treaty and on this principle of jus cogens, we believe that Israel is committing genocide. And first, they're asking for a preliminary ruling, the preliminary ruling saying, stop what you're doing right now. It's like an injunction in American law. Mm-hmm. Stop what you're doing until we can have a fuller hearing.
Because that could take years for the case.
It could take years.
We cannot wait.
So in the interim, what South Africa is saying is, in the interim, stop all the hostilities, stop all the aggression, because we believe that there is genocide occurring, and they're asking the International Court of Justice to issue a preliminary ruling based upon that and order Israel to stop action. And what's really impressed me, and you mentioned this, is an 84 page request to the court. It's full of reports from the United Nations, documentation from international observers, documentation from UN bodies, all attesting to the factual allegations, what they believe amounts to genocide.
You know, Israel was probably the last country, that ceased to support apartheid in South Africa. So they, throughout, Israel was the biggest supporter of the apartheid state of South Africa. This is the country.
And at a time when many countries of the world and people across the world were calling for there to be a boycott of South Africa, Israel broke that blockade, and we can't prove it, but we also think that during that time, Israel was shipping arms to South Africa.
So, this is a country was established or founded to protect the European Jew from
Correct.
what's going on there, and they were also. Anyway, here is a case where the whole world was supporting Israel directly or indirectly, European, right, American, and the Arab Zionists. Why would this case have a chance when the whole world was supporting Israel? Isn't it by supporting that case they are condemning ourselves? I know the rhetoric's now changing a little bit. Blinken and Biden and his Secretary of State, or now they start talking about the Palestinian state. But early on, they supported unconditionally the genocide act of the Israelis.
Composition of the International Court of Justice represents judges from across the world. So it's not necessarily stacked in favor of, let us say, the European North. It represents a diversity of voices, including what we used to call the South, and other perspectives of the world. Second, assuming, I'll talk like a lawyer because I am, assuming all the facts are correct here, the case is very powerful. It's a very, very powerful case that's being brought against Israel. I have to say also, as you pointed out, the fact that the major European powers, which were behind the UN initially and helped support creation of the International Court of Justice, they are not supporting Israel unequivocally. And then sometimes you just have to say, what, a picture speaks 1,000 words, or maybe video speaks 10 million words. I'm not sure what I want to say here, but when you watch the carnage building up, when you watch children, hospitals, people being redislocated. I mean, the South Africa report or complaint says that the targeting of the hospitals, especially birth wards, is aimed to prevent the birth of Palestinians.
Oh.
You put all that together with graphics.
So, what is the proceeding, and how many countries has to support this to make it?
Okay, so what's going to happen is what's called the oral arguments are going on now. They're going to take place for a few days. Then it'll take, I'm not quite sure how long. It could take a couple of weeks or so for the court to issue a preliminary judgment. It's always hard to predict how long, but I'm going to guess, let's say, a couple of weeks or so. And unless I'm totally wrong, the preliminary ruling will be to say that they believe there is enough evidence to support the arguments by South Africa. They will order Israel to halt all of their action at this point. And that becomes the next question. What happens? Because in an ideal world, Israel will say, okay, the court has ruled against me. That's it. Well, that's going to be the next step to see what happens, because judgments by the International Court of Justice, they can't enforce them themselves. They have to be enforced by somebody. They would turn it over to the UN Security Council, and it would be up to the UN Security Council to make a decision regarding what to do. Keep in mind, France, Great Britain, and the United States are permanent members with vetoes. What I would hope is that Israel would agree to stop the hostilities. I would hope maybe the Security Council would agree to saying we're going to send in peacekeeping forces and do something like that. That's what I'm hoping. I don't know what's going to happen because I'm not getting a lot of indications at this point that Israel is planning on stopping, and it'll just be curious to see how Israel and the international community reacts to a potential decision that accuses Israel of genocide.
You know, this is one of the few cases where, based on the South African case, they are using evidence of the intent or the genocide intent from the political leaders and military leader of the Israelis themselves. This is not an opinion. This is the Israelis leader Netanyahu or the defense saying we're going to eliminate, we're going to make Palestinian uninhabitable. So that this is an admission of their own statement, of their own intent. How much weight would that have in the case?
Yes, no, you're right. At one point, I'm going to paraphrase it a little bit. I think Prime Minister Netanyahu said something like, we're going to wipe Hamas off the map or something like that, or we're going to destroy them. I mean, I can't think of his exact words here. But when you start to piece together, I should say, the words of the Israeli government officials, it's clear, or at least it looks like it's clear, they are targeting uh, uh, Hamas and the Palestinians.
Uh, this is really it's a game changer, David. Is it a game changer in the last 3 months of maneuvering and butterflying and the media cover up and politician kind of diverted really the attention, and the Israelis have the right to defend itself and all this crap it's been saying for 80 years. Is this a
Yeah,
game changer?
I think so. I think so. The complaint is, but again, if the preliminary ruling goes the way I think it's going to go, this really shifts things because of what it really is saying now is that what's arguably the highest court in the world, the most important court arguably in the world, will come out and say Israel is in the wrong. And that I think puts pressure on not just Israel, it puts pressure on the United States, it puts pressure on Europe. And this is, again, to use your phrase, it is a potential game changer, not just here, but a larger game changer in terms of international relations in Israel. Because we've had over the last 50, 60 years, 70 years, many resolutions come out of the United Nations about Israel. This looks like of something on a very different level than anything I've ever seen in my study of international law.
Well, they cannot ignore it anymore. I've been ignoring it for 70 years.
Yeah.
I've yet to hear the Israelis follow or any any international law coming from the United Nations. I mean, so thank you, Professor David Schultz, Professor of Political Science, Hamlin University. I think you are back to the semester now.
I am. We start school next week. I'm around.
You're around. Well, sounds good, and good luck with your students.
All right.
I can't hardly wait to see the first day of your class.
Okay,
It's
great.
gonna be
Good.
interesting.
Actually, what's actually interesting, we should close with saying, is that my final exam in the fall, in my international law class, and this is before South Africa filed its complaint, my final exam in international law, I asked my students, imagine a country filed a complaint against Israel in the International Court of Justice on claims of genocide. I asked them, research it and tell me how you would rule. So in some sense,
You
what's happening
predicted.
there has already affected my classroom.
Wow, wow. This is what education should be.
Yes, I
Okay.
agree.
Good luck and appreciate what your time you've given us, and we'll talk.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.